I hate season 2 of the Devil May Cry Netflix anime. I went into the season really hoping it would be better than the previous season because if you watch that video, you know I dislike the first season of the Netflix Devil May Cry anime so much. I think it really messed up the characters, especially Lady, and that ending was just really bad. But I've been on such a big Devil May Cry kick lately that I decided to watch season 2 of the anime. And do I think it's better? Yes, but it still has a lot of its own problems, which I will get into that. But first I want to talk about the stuff I actually like. Like Dante's design, for the most part, I think it looks really good. His hair being long is really good. I think for the most part the voice actors did a wonderful job. Kevin Conroy sadly isn't in this season because he passed away, but I think the actor that replaced him still did very well. I like when they actually have DMC music. It's not too often, and it's not the music I'd want it to be. It'd be like a remix or just really wouldn't fit the character, but whatever. I like that they showed off the biggest point in Dante and Virgil's lives where they were attacked by demons as children. I think that's a cool scene, and it's cool to see Virgil's point of view of it. I like Arias' design. I think that looks really cool, and his character I think is much more interesting than it was in Devil May Cry 2. Though for the most part, anything in Devil May Cry 2 is obviously going to be worse than what you're adapting from it, because I think there were some cool ideas in Devil May Cry 2. Oh, and finally, the Jester, I think he was adapted very well. His laugh sounds like it came straight from the games from me, and obviously his design is very good. I'm sure I can think of more, because overall I did like the season more than the last one, but there's still a lot of issues. So many issues that I actually took notes while watching it. But the biggest thing about this season, and I guess it's also the biggest thing about last season, is how they handled Lady's character. Because I still think they don't understand Lady, and especially her parts in Devil May Cry 3, of why she's named Lady. The biggest thing is that they really try to rewrite or get past Lady betraying Dante. I don't think it even works very well in the show because they definitely cover it. It's not just oh, Dante's okay with it. But I think they go through it too fast, and it almost feels like Lady has so much development between seasons that we don't see. She's obviously feeling horrible about what she did to Dante, which rightfully so, but then if she's feeling this, why did she do it? I don't think either season gave her a good reason to do it, especially when so early into this season they released Dante, and it's disappointing. But yeah, a lot of my gripes with Lady just comes from how in between seasons she's trying to be better for Dante. She even goes by Lady, which makes zero sense to me. She has one of the stupidest lines in the show where she says, "Who's Mary?" And it's so dumb. It really doesn't follow her character arc through the games at all. I don't even know why in the show she's calling herself Lady, other than that Dante just called her that. There's no reason she should be shedding her name. Her father hasn't done anything past from season 1 yet that she knows of. Yeah, she hates her father, as she should, but in her mind, her dad's dead. And I don't understand why she suddenly calls herself Lady. In the game, she calls herself that to shed her name and her familial identity from her father. She wants to be nobody. But in the show, she just calls herself Lady because I guess she hates her job now. Maybe I'm getting the timeline wrong of what happened in the show because I'm only going to watch it once. But I don't even think she hears about how the vice president betrayed her trust until after this too. It sounds like she just hates the decision that she made and is just trying to go in the opposite direction, which doesn't make sense. She also doesn't have her iconic design really at all in this season. She actually has it in a flashback where she's in school clothes. I hate to say it, I'm that's Lady immediately. I don't like her Darkholm gear. I don't like the weird Padme suit she got. Even though I think it's a bit closer, it's still not Lady's character design, and it's disappointing. Maybe we'll get that in season 3. She doesn't even have Catalina Ann again. She gets it at the end of the season, which I assume next season she'll use it a lot. But 2 seasons to use it as her main weapon is a little crazy to me, and I think they could have worked out really well. Should I talk about what I really don't like about this season? It's that Lady and Dante get together. They kiss, they have like romantic feelings for each other. The season ends with them not really like following through. Lady decides to like go on her own or whatever. But I don't like it. I liked that it was like more up in the air in the games. They had a mission to do. They don't have to like, they don't have time to do this. I really think my biggest issue with it is that for Lady especially, it kind of came out of nowhere. You have so many characters saying how she's infatuated with Dante, but like, I don't think we see that until this season, which I think isn't like good character writing. And I think it should have been built up more. If they wanted this to be the end game, I think season 2 should have had them like really build up that potential relationship, but not like act on it yet. Give it some time to let the viewers like see that like, oh, this is a potential for those characters. I think they jumped the gun, and I don't love it, especially because I could kind of see it coming and was like dreading it the whole time. I guess that's enough of me talking bad about Lady until I talk about the ending. Next I want to talk about Virgil, because he's an actual character in this season, and for the most part I think he does pretty well. His voice actor is a really well beloved voice actor. Robbie Daymond, I think, does pretty well as Virgil. Now, I don't think he's perfect. Virgil to me just always has that nasally voice, and it's disappointing he doesn't have that in this show. I think despite that, he does pretty well. I think he can be like commanding, yet still not at like the top of his game when it matters. But sometimes in his voice acting, I just hear Akechi when his voice like got a little bit higher. Akechi and Virgil are just not two characters that I can see having the same voice. I think I got used to it at the end. Now I'm gonna play like Devil May Cry 3 and I'm just gonna be totally destroyed because Devil May Cry 3's Virgil is just perfect. But I think it's pretty good. I got used to Nero as Dante, I'm sure I can get used to this. But they also changed Virgil's story a little bit, and I think it is interesting him getting manipulated by Mundus. Also, they still mispronounce Mundus. They actually mispronounced Nello Angelo into Nilo Angelo. Names I didn't think you could mispronounce, they are mispronouncing. But I think it's an interesting way for Virgil to be manipulated, and it makes sense, him wanting to get revenge on Argosax for killing his mother and destroying his human life. With the ending, I don't think it works perfectly well, because why does Virgil want to stay with Mundus to like get stronger? Is he just gonna like fight forever? I assume this is when he's gonna get turned to Nello Angelo, which I think they should have kept Nello Angelo as like a surprise character for when Dante eventually sees him again. Having it just be his like low powered demon form, where Dante knows it's Virgil now, I think loses a lot of what was cool about Devil May Cry 1's appearance of Nello Angelo. One thing I did like was the battle between Dante and Virgil at like the Washington Monument / Lincoln Memorial. I thought that was pretty cool. It felt reminiscent of them fighting atop the tower at the beginning of Devil May Cry 3. They had some banter. I don't think the banter was as good, but they at least tried. And it gets into another one of my gripes with this show, and it's just that I don't think the fight scenes are that well choreographed. It's just basically them using their swords a lot, and I think part of Devil May Cry that I love, especially in like cutscenes, is them also utilizing their guns. There's a part where Virgil like catches Dante's bullets and lays them on the ground to basically hit up with his sword back at Dante, and it's so cool. And it's a scene I think you can do within the show. It's not like it would cost too much to animate that. But I don't know, I think the fight scenes are just kind of disappointing. There's a point where Virgil goes up against a Devil May Cry 2 boss, and if you haven't caught on now, Devil May Cry 2 feels like the main inspiration for this season. I think it's a good inspiration because anything you get out of Devil May Cry 2 is just infinitely going to be better in the show because Devil May Cry 2 is just so bad. But there's a part where Virgil finally like understands the truth from like the Trismegia, you know, that 3-headed boss in Devil May Cry 2, and he accepts the truth, and I think he accepts it too easily. I felt like there was a section out of the script where Virgil should have like questioned it more, because it feels like he sees it and is just like, okay, like later he kind of like battles with it a little bit, but there should have been more of that battle in this moment, or at least later in the show, where he's trying to figure out, did Argosax actually do this, or was it actually Mundus? But then I thought we were going to get like a fight with the Trismegia, and this is one of my least favorite bosses in Devil May Cry 2. I was like, oh, they're gonna like make this boss fight like worth it. Virgil's even saying he's gonna kill Arias' pet. Virgil runs away. in which one, I don't think is his character at all. This is the guy who should go up against a creature like this. Like, if he got past the worst part of it, which I feel like was the mental part of it, the physical part should be like almost a cakewalk for him. And it's a big issue for the show for me, especially this season, where it feels like there should be more action scenes. It just felt like there was a few moments where we were waiting for the next action scene. There's a lot of points in this show that actually feel too much like a show, where characters walk up to a point, then all the bad guys fight them. Or Lady running to try to get the Sword of Sparta, and even though she had a 30-second fight scene, the elevator is just now closing. There's a lot that just feels too convenient. I think it hurts the show, especially when it comes to fight scenes, where it feels like there should be a fight scene here, or there should be a fight, and then there's just not. And I don't know if it was like production side or writing side, but for me personally, I think it could have been better if it felt more fluid. Because Devil May Cry is a game where you fight all the time. And talking about the game, I feel like they haven't really adapted the like weapons part of it at all. Dante will use a different gun every now and then. He'll use like the rocket launcher once. But it would have been cool to have this show more of like the other weapons, like Beowulf's like fisticuffs or whatever. It's just not in the show. And talking about Beowulf, his design sucks in this show. I didn't even realize it was Beowulf. I thought it was like the seal hero or whatever from My Hero Academia. It took me a little bit to even recognize that it was Beowulf, and his voice is just not good. This is one of the bosses that talks in Devil May Cry. I don't know how they messed that one up so bad. I think so many of the designs just don't look very good. You'll see like one in the background of like Nevin, it's like, oh, that's a good design. It's because like they 99% pulled that from the game, and they didn't change much of it. For the most part, I just don't think there's any design that I can say goes above the game's counterparts. The design for Argosax is my biggest disappointment. Because Argosax has such a cool and simplistic design. It's basically just a guy who's on fire. But in this show, he's a giant kaiju monster with 2 mouths. Like, what are we doing? And I actually thought they were going to go against my expectations by having this be the first form of like Arius as Argosax, and then once he gains enough power, he'll like transform into the Argosax that I know and love. But no, when Arius first transforms into that like god form, he's like so close, but then he's just like orange and you don't see like the flames actually doing anything, which I understand, animating wise, would be horrible. And it's why I can't like blame it too much. But once he starts getting more souls, he just transforms back into this ugly monster. I can't even see the fire. And it's disappointing because Argosax's design is one of the best ones in Devil May Cry 2. And it's why I'd love to see Argosax back in some form, whether it be a DMC2 remake. It's fine, he wants to overthrow Mundus again since Mundus overthrew him. That's alright with me. The big kaiju fight, I think is like an interesting premise. This show, I think, introduces like quote-unquote power levels, like nothing's like said, like Dante isn't like over 9,000 or whatever. But there's parts where Dante's like, I'm not strong enough to beat this guy. And that goes into a whole other thing where I think Dante should be a little bit stronger. I feel like they really nerfed Lady in the season also. But yeah, you have Argosax versus Mundus, which I think is pretty cool. Again, it being a show where Dante and Virgil just can't get to the Sword of Sparta until the show permits it. It's actually kind of funny because after Mundus like destroys Argosax, which I think is a pretty cool scene other than him doing the anime slide behind him, it's actually kind of funny. He just like legitimately like slides behind him like, well now you're dead, and then pulls Arius out. But while Dante and Virgil are fighting over the sword, and it feels like at this point, Mundus knows Virgil's not even going to be with him. It makes no sense for him just to stand there and watch them fight. But yeah, he does. Dante gets thrown into the human world, and Virgil throws the sword, and then Mundus like cares. It's kind of lame. Lady legitimately does nothing in like this ending, which is disappointing because it really felt like this is the time when she should do something. Because I think this is where the writers should have been like, oh, people like Lady at this point. And it's just disappointing because Lady's like getting beaten up all this season. It's like kind of sad. I think with the introduction of Virgil, there's just like too many characters who can do something that they don't want to like keep track of everyone. And then Lady just gets like thrown to the side. But it brings me to another disappointment, and it's the exclusion of Lucia in this season. Like, why? You have Arius, you have so many of these like demon clones. And you're not gonna put the person who should be here? You're not gonna put Lucia? Like, of all the things that Devil May Cry 2 did wrong, Lucia was not that. She may have had a story that's very similar to Trish's in the previous game, but her design is so cool, and her motivation's there. A motivation that I think could have been easily transported into this anime. Like, come on, she was in the first season of Devil May Cry. Why aren't you gonna put her in this? Again, I think if Virgil or Lady wasn't in the season, I think Lucia would have been perfect. But again, why? You have all these clones of Lucia. You could have done something so interesting. You even have her like Devil Trigger, even though it looks slightly different. It's just so disappointing. I love Lucia. I want her to be brought back in like Devil May Cry 6 or something, I don't know. I think the ending went pretty well though. I mean, you have Dante doing his own thing, you have Virgil trapped in the demon world. I guess not really trapped in the demon world because he can leave whenever he wants. But you potentially have a setup of Devil May Cry 1. Maybe Trish will show up. I'd love to see Trish. But it also, I think, sets up Lady's like arc in the next season pretty well. It's her trying to find her father because she finally knows that he's alive. Overall, I think a pretty good season. Other than like the gripes of last season and like the story changes they made and everything else I talked about. Obviously, there's stuff I'd love to see changed. Oh, and they also just like completely got rid of like the government, I feel like. I feel like they were really trying to write that out. Which, like, good on them. But yeah, in a contrast to the video I made last year, I'm like kind of excited to see where the next season goes. Because if it is a more faithful adaptation of Devil May Cry 1, I'd be interested to see that. And if it isn't, then the show is just terrible. But yeah, let me know what you think about this season. Was it better? Was it worse? Do you wish Lucia was in it? And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, and goodbye.
Finally! I was getting tired of playing your childish games!